Thanks for joining me in conversations with leaders who are using their feelings as a leadership tool for both inspiration and motivation. Today I'm speaking with Maya Steinberg, a climate leader who brings a positive outlook to her work on the climate crisis. Maya shared that she is an Enneagram Type 9, and listen closely to her emphasize the importance of staying positive and how she's connected with feelings of sadness and anxiety, but keeps a focus on those positive feelings. And now for the conversation. Today I'm joined by Maya Steinberg, Climate Justice Development Manager at Hammond Climate Solutions. Hammond Climate Solutions is on a mission to expedite positive change for a just and livable future for all. Maya manages the clean energy programs and supports the philanthropic efforts for her organization. Maya is dedicated to ensuring that climate solutions are implemented in a just and equitable way. Maya, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's great to have you, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. And what I'm really trying to do is understanding the underlying feelings that impassion people into their leadership and actions in
Mhm.
the climate movement. And I wanted to just start off and ask you, how are you feeling now about climate change?
Well, I would say my feelings are honestly all over the place. Um, you know, Generally, I'm a very optimistic and positive person. I definitely value inner peace and harmony in my environment. But when it comes to the climate crisis in particular, at times I'm hopeful and optimistic and strong, but at other times I feel discouraged and uncertain just because, I mean, we all see the news, we all know rising sea levels and temperatures, rampant wildfires and droughts, um, among many, many other disasters. So it's hard to remain hopeful, but just being the optimistic person I am, I know that that is the guiding light for me in terms of how I handle my thoughts on climate change as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. And certainly we need to find hope and optimism as we work through this.
Mhm.
It's so important, and I so appreciate you bringing that hopeful, positive, and optimistic energy to this. And I one of the things I like to understand, because there's usually a different starting point for people.
Mhm.
And the big three are generally anger. Some people start with anger. That just frustrates me.
Mhm.
Another one is just sadness, and another one is anxiety. And I know we all cycle through these, but would you like characterize one of those as your starting point?
In terms of what made me feel impassioned to make a difference,
Yes.
that's a great question. Probably sadness when I look at the world around me. I grew up in Los Angeles, a major city, so I didn't have real exposure to the natural environment. So it wasn't until, I entered adulthood where I started camping, spending more time in nature. And although I did go to an outdoor sports camp when I was younger, so we would go into, different creeks and rivers and lakes. So I had that exposure to the natural environment, but just, as I've gotten older, just becoming more aware and seeing my surroundings change. And also, when you think about the impacts that climate justice has, the fact that, marginalized communities are impacted first and worst, the fact that, defenseless animals are having their habitats and ecosystems destroyed. I mean, I think that definitely instills a feeling of sadness. So I think for me, I try to use that as a motivating factor, um, in terms of wanting to make a difference, make a change for the world.
Right, right. So just your compassion for the other life, that you've now experience this, and you bring up such a good point, because so many people who grow up in an urban environment, they aren't necessarily connected with nature, and so it's hard to appreciate what we're losing unless you've experienced nature at some point in your life. Like for
Definitely.
somebody who, grew up in the South Pacific with beautiful, colorful coral reefs, and
Mhm.
then seeing them turned bleached white, it's just got to be devastating for them, but they have that close personal connection with what's going on, oftentimes, a lot of us are so busy leaving a more urban life that we don't
Mhm.
have see that happening. So that is really such a good point. So, how now do you find that these feelings are influencing your behaviors and your direction as a leader?
Sure. So I would say, again, generally, I try my best to be a very positive and optimistic person. So I like to be fueled by that. I mean, of course, the sadness, the climate anxiety, that is definitely, a source of fuel to keep people going. But I choose to focus on the positive and the wins. So, I use the more negative views to push myself to work harder and to make more of an effort in terms of networking and just, spreading the word, raising awareness of the climate crisis. And I think also just having discussions with people that have both similar and differing viewpoints than me is something uh, that has definitely been beneficial in terms of, you know, seeing how different leaders and different people across the movement are influenced by climate change.
Right, right. Yeah, it's interesting. Sadness is such a important feeling for raising awareness
Mhm.
and compassion and caring, and it's a really good starting point. But I find that the feelings that really motivate us to action are more anxiety and anger. Those are the two that get you going.
Mhm.
And I noticed that you mentioned climate anxiety as a motivating force, and I relate to that because I think that's one that really energizes me. When I'm
Mhm.
not feeling sad, then my anxiety for, oh, we got to do something,
Mhm.
is a important one to, like, get you going and get you doing stuff. So
But I also feel like there is such a fine line between those more negative feelings and also just having a general feeling of hopelessness or despair. Because I think if, it's the latter feelings, it's not going to motivate you to try to make a positive change, to try to make an impact, because people can tend to be focused just on the negative. So I think a healthy, a pinch of that, just a healthy amount,
yeah,
um, is great and I think is motivating. But I think just focusing on the positive, on what we as individuals can do, um, even starting at the local level and then working our way up, to the state level, national level, global level, I think is something that has definitely resonated with me as well.
and what is it, that you are finding right now, in your leadership, that really is the the beacon, or guiding light for that optimism? What is drawing you towards that optimism?
Well, I think we're obviously living in a time where there's a lot of different opinions, but I would say that there is the general consensus that climate change is real and climate change is happening. And I think that, the millennials, Gen Z, the younger generations, this is something that is at the forefront of their agenda. So, when I think about the future, I'm hopeful and I'm positive that effective climate policies will be put into place, and that, we'll be able to mitigate the climate crisis and hopefully undo some of the damage that's done. But just knowing that, the rising generations are so passionate and invigorated by, making a positive change for the planet is something that definitely gives me a source of optimism.
Yeah. Just the increasing awareness
Mhm.
and passion about doing something, and how it's becoming easier and easier to build these communities that are interested in doing the work. It is, I agree, that's very, very motivating and hopeful and optimistic. Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you. So now, what advice would you give to leaders and aspiring leaders who are they themselves starting to have feelings about the climate crisis?
I love this question, just because I think that there are so many different answers, and so many different right answers. There is no wrong answer, just because, it really depends on the individual person. But I would say, spreading the word, getting involved, volunteering. I know 350.org and the Climate Reality Project have chapters in different cities across the country, and I know their work is virtual as well. Um, I think that's a great starting point, but I also think that, if you are experiencing some of the more negative emotions or climate anxiety, just knowing that you're not alone in experiencing those feelings, I think is definitely beneficial. I think having an open dialogue with family, friends, peers, mentors, just people around you that you're close to, I think that could be a great way to kind of combat those more negative feelings and just being proactive. I think, personally, since rejoining the climate realm after graduating college, I felt a lot of inspiration and connection to those around me. And it's just, yeah, instilled a lot of hope and positivity. And um, yeah, so I think just also practicing gratitude and journaling has been something that has personally resonated with me a lot. So I think, focusing on what you can do at the individual level, and also advocating for elected officials and leaders and, CEOs that have the climate crisis as a priority agenda item on their docket. I think that would be a great starting point.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, you mentioned so many great things. It's starting with, just having conversations with those
Mhm.
around you, and, helping, because that helps you process your feelings, and then,
Totally.
finding, like-minded people who are, sharing similar feelings, and joining communities of like-minded people, and focusing, those feelings into action.
Mhm.
And I love the way you say there's no wrong answer. It's like everybody needs to be doing everything.
Mhm.
So it's like whatever you're passionate about, there's something that you can be doing to address the climate crisis in that realm. So
I
that is
mean,
such great advice.
thank you. For better or for worse, the climate crisis is, very expansive in terms of what it entails and what it covers, from communities of concern to different ecosystems to impacts on the environment, to other social justice types of concerns. So I think, I truly believe that there is something within the umbrella of climate change that every single person can resonate with. It's just about, finding what truly speaks to you and running with those feelings to try to make a difference.
Perfect. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Maya, for all the terrific work that you're doing and your leadership in this area. It's so important. And thank you for sharing your feelings and joining me in the conversation today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you. Thanks for listening. Maya shared so many great points. I love how she emphasized the importance of having conversations and building community. Also, as an Enneagram Type 9 who tend to minimize feelings of anger, she uses positive feelings like hope and optimism to maintain the energy and direction for her leadership. We definitely need more Enneagram Type 9s like Maya as climate leaders. If you found this helpful, please subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to get notifications of future episodes. Thanks again.